The great council chamber of the Galactic Cooperative fell silent as Ambassador XI stepped forward. The crystalline being's body flickered, with desperate red patterns that every species in the room understood as extreme distress. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 12 different worlds watched with growing fear. Friends, Zexi began their voice, carrying through the universal translators, we face the end of everything we have built. Holographic display in the center of the room showed a map of their galaxy. Red markers spread across it like a disease, each one marking a world that no longer existed. 17 planets had fallen in just 6 months. Billions of lives gone. Commander Krethak of the Cathar Defense Force stood on his insect-like legs, his antennae twitching nervously. The Vorthon hive has broken through our outer defenses. Our fleets cannot stop them. They consume everything in their path. The other representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Vorthons were a nightmare from the dark spaces between stars. They didn't just conquer worlds, they ate them. Every living thing became food for their terrible hunger. Trees, animals, even bacteria, nothing survived their passage. Our weapons are useless, continued Krethak, his voice bitter with defeat. Energy blasters that can stun rampaging beasts simply bounce off their bioarmor. Our ships are built for peace, for exploration. We never prepared for something like this. Elder Mothra of the Wisdom Council floated in her hover chair, her ancient face grave. In 3,000 years of galactic peace, we forgot how to fight real wars. We police minor dispute, stop small conflicts. But this, she gestured at the spreading red on the map, this is extinction. The room erupted in panicked chatter. Representatives spoke over each other. A dozen languages, all asking the same question. What could they do? Zexi raised a crystalline hand for silence. Our intelligence division has found something, a possible solution. The chatter stopped. Hope flickered in alien eyes and sensor organs. There is a species on the galactic rim. Young, primitive by our standards. We discovered them only recently and plan to make contact in a few centuries, after they had time to develop proper civilization. Dr. Velter, the cooperative's chief xenobiologist, activated his tablet, species designation human, third planet of a yellow star system. They achieved nuclear fusion 200 years ago, faster than light travel only 50 years ago, very advanced for their age. But he paused, looking embarrassed. They still use kinetic weapons, projectiles that physically impact targets, chemical explosives, primitive war machines. Several representatives made sounds of disgust. Kinetic weapons were considered barbaric by civilized standards. They fight each other constantly, continued Dr. Velter. Their history is nothing but warfare. They have weapons designed specifically to kill other humans. They even have weapons that could destroy their entire planet. Savages, muttered someone from the back of the chamber. Elder Mothra leaned forward. Perhaps. But they are the only species in this galaxy that still knows how to wage real war. The chamber fell silent again. The truth hung heavy in the air. Their beautiful, peaceful civilization had no idea how to fight something like the Vorthons. But somewhere on the edge of space, a young species had never stopped preparing for war. Ambassador HFY's body flickered with new patterns, not quite hope, but something close to it. We could offer them full membership in the cooperative, access to all our technology, faster ships, better medicine, unlimited knowledge, and in exchange for what? Asked Commander Krethak. Military assistance against the Vorthan threat. The debate that followed lasted hours. Some representatives argued it was too dangerous to involve such a violent species, others worried about what humans might do with advanced technology. A few suggested it was better to die as civilized beings than live as warriors. But as reports came in of the Vorthans attacking 2 more worlds, the choice became clear. They were going to die anyway if they did nothing. The vote was close, but it passed. Dr. Velter spent 3 days crafting the message, trying to explain their situation in terms humans would understand. The final transmission was simple. To the leaders of Earth, we are the Galactic Cooperative Council, representatives of 12 spacefaring species. Our civilization faces extinction from an enemy called the Vorthan Hive. They consume entire worlds and cannot be stopped by our current military capabilities. We require support against this existential threat. In exchange, we offer full membership in our cooperative and unlimited access to our technology, including faster-than-light travel, advanced medicine, and scientific knowledge spanning 3 millennia. Please respond if you are willing to provide military assistance. The message was sent across 40 light-years of space, compressed into a tight beam transmission that would reach Earth's solar system in just hours thanks to quantum relay technology. The response came back faster than expected. The humans had their own quantum communication network, crude but functional. The reply was brief. We understand your situation. We accept your offer. We are on our way. No questions about payment, no demands for guarantees, no lengthy negotiations about terms and conditions, just a simple promise. Dr. Velter stared at the message, confused. That's it. They didn't ask about numbers of enemy ships, defensive capabilities, tactical situations. They know nothing about space warfare. Commander Krethak clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Maybe they don't need to know. Maybe they just need to know there's a fight. 3 weeks passed. The Vorthans consumed another world while the Galactic Cooperative waited. Some representatives began to doubt their decision. What could one primitive species do that their combined fleets could not? Then the sensors detected them. 12 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kethmore system. The humans had arrived. The alien observers studied the human vessels with growing confusion. They looked nothing like proper starships, no graceful curves or elegant design, just angular metal boxes covered in weapons, gun barrels, and missile pods, stuck out from every surface like the spines of some mechanical beast. Those ships are so ugly, whispered one of the technical officers. But Dr. Velter was studying the sensor readings with growing amazement. Their power output is incredible. And look at those weapon systems. I've never seen anything like them. The lead human ship, a massive vessel bristling with cannons, sent a transmission. This is Admiral Sarachan of the United Earth ship Indomitable. We're here to discuss your Vorthan problem. Ambassador HFY felt something they Hadn't experienced in months, not quite. Hope it was too early for that, but for the first time since the war began, they felt like maybe, just maybe, they were no longer alone. The humans had come, and even though their ships looked crude and their weapons seemed primitive, there was something about them that made the Vorthans' bioarmor and superior numbers seem a little less terrifying. Something in Admiral Chen's voice suggested that Earth had sent more than just military support. They had sent people who understood that some fights were worth everything, no matter the cost. The real war was about to begin. The meeting room aboard the cooperative flagship felt tense as Admiral Sarachen's hologram materialized at the conference table. The human woman appeared to be in her 50s with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Her uniform was simple compared to the ornate robes and ceremonial armor worn by the alien commanders. Ambassador Zax's crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy as they made introductions. Around the table sat the surviving military leaders of the Galactic Cooperative, Commander Krillak of the Cathari, General Wexelen of the Hegemony Guard, and Fleet Admiral Tothron of the Stellar Navy. "We are grateful you came so quickly. Zax," I began, "the situation has grown worse since our transmission. The Vorthans have established a foothold on Keth Moore's northern continent." Admiral Chen studied the tactical display showing the planet below. Massive biostructures dotted the surface like tumors pulsing with sickly light. "Tell me about your enemy." Commander Krillak leaned forward on his 6 legs. "The Vorthans are unlike anything in our databases. They don't build technology. They grow it. Their ships are living creatures the size of cities. Their ground forces are bioengineered predators designed for one purpose: consumption. They land these massive organism ships on planets," added General Wexelen, their tentacles writhing with anxiety. "The ships root themselves deep into the ground and begin converting all organic matter into biomass. Trees, grass, animals, even soil. Bacteria, everything becomes food." Fleet Admiral Tothron activated a recording that made several officers look away. "This is what happened on Veltara." The hologram showed a world being slowly digested. The green continents turned brown, then black as the Vorthan biostructures spread like cancer across the surface. "How long does the process take?" Chen asked, her voice steady. 6 months for a planet this size," Krillak replied. "They work slowly, methodically. By the time they finish, nothing remains but bare rock." Admiral Chen nodded, taking notes on a simple paper pad. "The aliens found this primitive habit strange. Why not use digital storage? What about your military response?" The alien commanders exchanged uncomfortable glances. General Wexlan spoke first. "Our weapons are designed for peacekeeping operations, energy blasters that can stun or disable, non-lethal force fields, weapons meant to stop conflicts, not destroy enemies." "We tried everything," Krathik added bitterly. "Our most powerful plasma cannons barely scratch their bioarmor. Their ships heal damage faster than we can inflict it." Chen looked up from her notes. "You've been fighting them for how long?" 8 months. We've lost 17 worlds and most of our fleet, and in all that time, you've killed how many of them?" The silence stretched uncomfortably. Finally, Fleet Admiral Tothron answered. We don't know. Our sensors can't tell if they're dead. Or just wounded, they don't seem to stay. Down. Admiral Chen set down her pen and looked at each alien commander in turn. Let me understand this correctly. You've been in a war for 8 months and you don't know if you've killed a single enemy. Our weapons aren't designed to kill. Zaxi said defensively, we are a peaceful civilization. We resolve conflicts through diplomacy and nonviolent means. The Vorthans aren't interested in diplomacy, Chen replied. They're interested in eating you. She stood and walked to the tactical display, studying the biostructures on Kethmore's surface. You asked for support. What exactly did you have in mind? Commander Krathek's antennae twitched. Hopefully, we need you to help cover our evacuation. Ships, your kinetic weapons might buy us enough time to save more civilians from the planet. Admiral Chen turned back to face them, and something in her expression made the aliens nervous. Commander, we didn't travel 40 light-years to run support for an evacuation. We came here to solve your Vorthan problem. Admiral, General Wexelen's tentacles curled with confusion. Perhaps you don't understand the scale of the threat. Intelligence reports indicate over 300 Vorthan biovessels in this system. Your fleet has 12 ships. I understand perfectly, Chen replied. You're outnumbered 25-1. Your weapons don't work. You're losing planets faster than you can evacuate them. She paused. You wanted support. We're delivering shock and awe. Fleet Admiral Tothron leaned back in confusion. Shock and awe. It's a human military doctrine, Chen explained. Rapid dominance through overwhelming force and psychological impact. The goal isn't just to defeat the enemy, it's to destroy their will to fight. Krithox's mandibles clicked nervously. Admiral, with respect, how can 12 ships achieve what our combined fleets could? Not. Chen smiled, and the expression was not entirely reassuring. Because you've been fighting the wrong kind of war. You're trying to be civilized against an enemy that doesn't understand civilization. You're using non-lethal weapons against something that wants to eat you. She activated her own tactical display, showing the human fleet positions. We've been studying your combat records during our journey here. Your tactics are designed for peacekeeping, maintaining order, minimizing casualties, preserving infrastructure. Those are the foundations of civilized warfare. 6 High protested. Maybe. Chen agreed, but the Vorthans aren't civilized. They're an extinction-level threat, and humans have a lot of experience dealing with extinction-level threats. The aliens looked confused. Dr. Velter, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. Admiral, our records show humans have never faced anything like the Vorthans. Chen's smile became grimmer. No, but we've spent our entire history fighting the most dangerous predator in our galaxy, each other. Every weapon we've built, every tactic we've developed, every strategy we've tested, it was all designed to kill other humans. And humans are very, very good at killing. She turned back to the tactical display. You've been treating this like a police action, trying to minimize damage and casualties. We're going to treat it like what it is: total war, the kind where only one side survives. Commander Kriltak shifted uncomfortably. What exactly does that mean? It means we're going to do things that will probably horrify you, Chen said matter-of-factly. We're going to target their food, supplies, their reproduction sites, their command structures. We're going to use weapons you consider barbaric. We're going to fight dirty. Hit them where they're weak and keep hitting until they're all dead. The silence in the room was deafening. Finally, Ambassador X asked, "And if your approach fails, Admiral?" Chen checked her chronometer. "Then we'll die trying. But the thing about humans is, we're really bad at knowing when to quit." She looked around the table at the nervous alien faces. "You asked for military support. That's what we do. We support our allies by eliminating their enemies. All of them." She began shutting down her hologram projector. "I suggest you pull your ships back to minimum safe distance. What we're about to do is going to get messy." As the hologram faded, the last thing the aliens heard was Admiral Chen's voice. "All human ships, this is indomitable. Execute Operation Death Blow. Let's show these parasites what happens when they threaten our friends." The aliens sat in stunned silence, suddenly understanding that they had invited something into their galaxy that might be more dangerous than the Vorthans themselves. But as alarms began blaring throughout their ship, announcing another Vorthan attack, they realized they were about to find out if human brutality could save them. Oh, the human attack began at dawn, and nothing the aliens had seen in 3,000 years of galactic peace had prepared them for it. From the observation deck of the cooperative flagship, Commander Krithak watched through his compound eyes as the human fleet spread out in what appeared to be a chaotic formation. No elegant battle lines, no ceremonial positioning, just 12 ugly metal ships moving like predators stalking prey. "They're launching fighters," reported Lieutenant Fexta from the sensor station. Karlak looked at the tactical display and felt his antennae twitch with confusion. "Fighters? Those are tiny ships, one pilot each. Maybe two. What can they possibly accomplish against biovessels the size of cities?" His question was answered. Within minutes, the human fighters moved unlike anything in the cooperative database. Instead of the careful defensive patterns used by civilized species, they flew in aggressive swarms, diving and weaving around the massive Vorthon bioships like angry insects. Their weapons, primitive kinetic cannons and chemical explosive missile, began punching holes in bio armor that had shrugged off the most powerful energy weapons. "How are they penetrating the carapace?" asked Dr. Velter, who was monitoring from the science station. "Impact velocity," replied the sensor operator, their voice filled with disbelief. "They're moving at speeds that should tear their ships apart. The kinetic energy alone is enormous." But the real shock came when the human fighters began ramming attacks. Did that pilot just fly directly into the bioship? Krithak stared at the display in horror as a human fighter deliberately crashed into a Vorthon nerve cluster, the explosion taking out both the pilot and a critical enemy system, confirming deliberate collision. Sensor operator reported the human pilot aimed for the brain stem. Equivalent, both destroyed. More fighters followed the same pattern. Not all of them, the humans weren't suicidal, but when conventional attacks failed, human pilots would simply drive their ships into critical targets like living missiles. "This is insane," whispered Dr. Velter. "No civilized species would sacrifice pilots like This, Admiral Chen's voice crackled. Over the communication system. Cooperative flagship this is. Indomitable, we're beginning orbital. Bombardment of planetary targets. Recommend you maintain current. Distance. Krathek opened a channel. Admiral. There are still civilians on that planet, millions of them in the southern cities confirmed. We've identified all civilian population centers. They're not being targeted. Then what? Are you bombing? The answer came in the form of massive explosions across Kethmer's northern continent. But instead of targeting the Vorthan biostructures directly, the humans were hitting everything around them. Forests that the Vorthans were harvesting for biomass vanished in nuclear fire. Rivers that fed the biostructures were poisoned with chemical weapons. Even the soil itself was being sterilized with some kind of molecular weapon. They're destroying the food supply. Dr. Velter realized with growing amazement. On the planet's surface, the Vorthan biostructures began showing signs of distress. Their pulsing lights grew erratic as their feeding tentacles found nothing but poisoned earth and radioactive ash. But the humans weren't finished. Dropships began launching from the human fleet, crude, angular craft that dove toward the planet like falling meteors. They crashed through the atmosphere with no regard for stealth or safety, landing hard in clearings near Vorthan positions. They're landing troops, Krathek reported, his voice filled with disbelief, on the planet with active Vorthan ground forces. That's suicide, said General Wexlan, who had arrived on the observation deck. Vorthans can infect other species with their larvae. Any creature that gets too close becomes a host for their young. Through the ship's powerful telescopes, they watched human soldiers pour out of the drop ships. These weren't the elegant energy shield protected peacekeepers of the cooperative forces. These were warriors in heavy armor, carrying weapons that looked designed for one purpose: killing. The humans advanced on Vorthon positions with tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. They used chemical weapons that specifically targeted Vorthon respiratory systems. They deployed area denial weapons that made entire regions uninhabitable. Most shocking of all, they fought at close range, engaging Vorthons in hand-to-hand combat with weapons that could cut through bioarmor. How are they not getting infected? Asked Dr. Velter. The answer came from intercepted human military communications. The humans had spent their journey to Kethmore analyzing captured Vorthon biomatter and developing countermeasures. Their armor was lined with materials toxic to Vorthon larvae. Their weapons were coated with chemicals that neutralized Vorthon biological agents. They planned for this, Krilltech realized. They studied the enemy during their approach and developed specific countermeasures. But what truly amazed the watching aliens was how the humans fought. When a soldier was wounded, their comrades didn't retreat, they fought harder. When a position was overrun, the humans didn't surrender. They detonated explosives that killed both themselves and their attackers. When facing impossible odds, the humans didn't ask for quarter. They charged forward, screaming battle cries that made the Vorthons hesitate. Their tactical doctrine is completely different from ours, observed General Wexlan. We fight to minimize casualties and preserve life. They fight to achieve objectives, regardless of cost. Admiral Chen's voice came over the communication system again. Cooperative flagship. Be advised, we're detecting Vorthon reinforcements approaching from the outer system. Recommend you evacuate civilian ships to minimum safe distance. Admiral Krethek responded, our sensors show over 50 bioships incoming. You'll be outnumbered 4-1. Acknowledged. We're redeploying to intercept. The aliens watched in fascination as the human fleet moved to engage the incoming Vorthons. But instead of forming defensive lines or seeking advantageous positions, the humans did something that defied all military logic. They charged straight at the enemy. The space battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Human ships moved with reckless aggression, trading armor and hull integrity for positioning and firepower. They used their own vessels as shields, sacrificing smaller ships to protect larger ones. They detonated damaged ships as improvised bombs when enemy biovessels got too close. They're not trying to win cleanly, Dr. Velter observed with growing understanding. They're trying to hurt the enemy as much as possible before they die. But the humans weren't dying. Against all odds, their brutal tactics were working. Vorthon bioships evolved for overwhelming weaker opponents found themselves facing an enemy that hit back with equal savagery. The biological armor that protected them from energy weapons was being torn apart by kinetic rounds fired at velocities that physics said should be impossible. How are their ships generating so much power? Asked the sensor operator. Dr. Velter was studying the readings with growing amazement. They're running their reactors at dangerous levels. Any civilized species would consider those power outputs suicidal. Maybe that's the point, Krethek said quietly. Maybe being civilized is what made us weak. On the planet below, human ground forces were achieving the impossible. They weren't just holding their positions against Vorthon attacks. They were advancing. Biostructures that had taken root weeks ago were being systematically destroyed by human demolition teams who fought their way through hordes of Vorthon defenders. The turning point came when a human Marine, a soldier named Captain Rodriguez, according to intercepted communications, single-handedly fought her way into a Vorthon command structure. She was wounded, her armor breached already, infected with Vorthon larvae that should have turned her into a host within minutes. Instead, she activated a device that the alien sensors couldn't identify. The entire biostructure convulsed, then went silent. The infection that should have consumed her had somehow been turned against the Vorthons themselves. What did she do? Krethek asked. Admiral Chen's voice answered over the open channel, calm despite the chaos around her. Biological warfare. We modified captured Vorthon genetic material to create a virus that attacks their neural networks. Captain Rodriguez just introduced it directly into their command structure. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the battlefield, Vorthon forces began showing signs of confusion and disorganization. Their coordinated attacks broke down into random, uncontrolled movements. The humans pressed their advantage with ruthless efficiency. They didn't accept surrender because the Vorthons couldn't surrender. They didn't take prisoners because the Vorthons couldn't be imprisoned. They simply kept fighting until every Vorthon on the planet was dead. As the battle wound down, Krithek found himself staring at the tactical display in stunned silence. In less than 12 hours, humans had accomplished what the combined galactic cooperative forces couldn't do in 8 months. They had completely eliminated a Vorthon foothold and saved an entire world. But as he watched human ships systematically hunting down fleeing Vorthon vessels, Krithek realized something that made his blood run cold. The humans weren't finished. They weren't just defending Kethmore. They were going hunting. 3 weeks after the Battle of Kethmore, the Galactic Cooperative found itself dealing with a new reality. Humans at war were unlike anything they had imagined. Commander Krithak stood in the human command center aboard the UES Indomitable, watching Admiral Chen coordinate what she called deep strike operations. The room buzzed with activity as human officers moved with mechanical precision, coordinating attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. Target Alpha 7 confirmed eliminated, reported Lieutenant Torres from the communication station. No Vorthon survivors detected. Target Beta 3 requests orbital support, called out another officer. Marine ground teams are encountering heavy resistance. Admiral Chen studied the galaxy-wide tactical display with cold efficiency. Red markers showed known Vorthon positions, while blue markers tracked human task forces moving to eliminate them. The aliens watching felt increasingly uncomfortable as they realized the scope of what humans considered a normal military operation. Admiral, Krithak said carefully, your forces are attacking 17 different systems simultaneously. How is this possible with only 12 ships? Chen looked up from her planning table. We're not using 12 ships anymore. Earth has been mobilizing since we left. The second fleet arrived yesterday, and the third fleet will be here within the week. The aliens exchanged nervous glances. They had assumed the initial 12 ships represented Earth's entire military capability. How many ships are you bringing? Asked Dr. Velter. As many as necessary, Chen replied simply. The Vorthons have consumed 17 worlds and killed billions of sentient beings. That makes them an extinction-level threat to galactic civilization. Earth takes extinction-level threats seriously. Captain Zara Martinez, the leader of human ground forces, entered the command center still wearing combat armor. Stained with alien blood, she moved with the easy confidence of someone who had spent weeks fighting impossible odds and winning. Admiral, we've completed the sweep of the Veltara system, she reported. All Vorthon biostructures eliminated. The planet is sterile but recoverable. Katharag's antennae twitched with confusion. Veltara was consumed months ago. Our intelligence indicated it was completely overrun. Captain Martinez looked at him with something that might have been pity. Your intelligence was wrong. The Vorthons had converted maybe 40% of the planetary biomass. The rest was just damaged. But our sensors showed no life signs, protested Dr. Velter. Because you were looking for complex life, Martinez explained. Bacteria, fungi, simple organisms. They were hiding in caves, deep soil, underwater thermal vents. Life finds a way to survive, even against the Vorthons. She activated a holographic display. showing Veltara's current state. The planet looked scarred and brown, but small patches of green were already beginning to appear near the poles. Recovery teams estimate the ecosystem will be functioning again within 50 years, Martinez continued. 100 years and it'll be fully restored. Not bad for a dead world, the aliens stared at the display in amazement. They had written off every consumed world as permanently lost. The humans had turned one of them into a recovery operation. How many other worlds can be saved? Asked Katharak. Admiral Chen consulted her tactical display. Intelligence suggests about half. Others were too thoroughly consumed, but even those might be terraformable with enough effort. Terraformable, Dr. Velter looked confused. You mean you can make dead worlds livable again? Of course, Chen replied as if this should be obvious. Humans have been terraforming planets for 2 centuries. It's expensive and time-consuming, but entirely possible. The casual way she said it sent chills through the alien observers. These humans weren't just warriors, they were world builders on a scale that Cooperative had never imagined. Admiral, Lieutenant Torres called out. We're receiving a priority transmission. From Task Force Gamma, they've located what appears to be a Vorthan Queen ship. The command center fell silent. Queen ships were theoretical, massive biovessels that supposedly controlled entire Vorthan fleets. No one had ever confirmed their existence. Location, Chen asked. Kepler 442 system, approximately 30 light years from here. The ship is the size of a moon and appears to be coordinating Vorthan operations across this entire galactic sector. Admiral Chen studied the data for a moment, then made a decision that horrified the watching aliens. Signal Task Force Gamma to maintain distance and continue observation. We're going after it. Admiral Krithak protested. A Queen ship would be defended by hundreds of biovessels. Even with your reinforcements, you'd be outnumbered 50 to 1. Chen smiled, and the expression made the aliens nervous. Commander, you're still thinking like you're fighting a defensive war. We're not trying to survive contact with the Queen ship. We're going to kill it. Captain Martinez grinned. About time. I was getting bored with the small stuff. Over the next week, the aliens watched in fascination and growing horror as humans demonstrated their approach to impossible odds. Instead of massing their fleets for a direct assault, they began what they called asymmetric warfare. Human ships appeared throughout the Kepler 442 system, but not where the Vorthans expected them. They attacked supply convoys, communication nodes, and isolated outposts. They used guerrilla tactics that the Vorthans evolved for direct confrontation couldn't effectively counter. They're not trying to defeat the enemy fleet, Krethek realized as he watched the tactical display. They're trying to make it ineffective. Exactly, Admiral. Chen confirmed. The Queen ship controls its fleet through bioneural links. We're systematically destroying those links, isolating it from its defenders. The breakthrough came when human scientists working with captured Vorthan biomatter developed something they called a neural virus. Unlike the biological weapon used on Kethmore, this was specifically designed to attack the quantum entanglement networks that Vorthan organisms used for long-range communication. You can sever their hive mind. Connection, Dr. Velter asked in amazement. Better than that, replied Dr. Sarah Kim, the human xenobiologist. We can turn it against them. The virus doesn't just cut communication, it sends false signals, makes them think their queen is giving orders that she isn't. The final assault on the queenship was unlike anything in recorded military history. The humans didn't attack it directly. Instead, they infected its defender fleet with the neural virus, then sat back and watched as hundreds of biovessels began attacking each other, confused by conflicting signals from their compromised hive mind. When the queenship finally stood alone, its defenses turned against it by its own confused children. Captain Martinez led a boarding operation that the aliens insisted was suicide. You can't fight Vorthons in close quarters, Krethek warned. They'll overwhelm you with sheer biomass. Maybe, Martinez agreed. But we've been studying Vorthon biology for months now. We know they're weak points. The boarding operation lasted 18 hours. The aliens monitoring from orbit listened to radio chatter that painted a picture of combat so intense and brutal that several representatives left the observation deck in distress. But when it was over, Captain Martinez's voice came through the communication system, tired but triumphant. Admiral, this is Martinez. The Queen is dead. Repeat, the target is eliminated. The effect was immediate and galaxy-wide, across 17 star systems. Vorthon biovessels suddenly went dark. Without their queen's coordination, the hive mind network collapsed. Individual Vorthon organisms, evolved to follow central commands, found themselves unable to function independently. Within days, human task forces were reporting the same thing from every Vorthon-occupied system. Complete enemy collapse. They're not fighting back, reported one confused Marine captain. They're just sitting there, like they don't know what to do. Admiral Chen's response was characteristically direct. Then kill them while they're confused. All of them. And that's exactly what the humans did. By the end of the month, the Vorthon hive, a threat that had terrorized the galaxy for generations, was extinct, not defeated, not contained, not driven back to the dark spaces between stars. Extinct, every bioship destroyed, every ground force eliminated, every trace of Vorthon presence in the galaxy systematically hunted down and eradicated. The aliens who had asked for support found themselves staring at a galaxy suddenly eerily quiet. The red markers that had spread like cancer across their star charts were gone, all of them. It's over, whispered Ambassador Zex. High, their crystalline form flickering with disbelief. They're all dead. Admiral Chen, cleaning her sidearm with methodical precision, looked up at the alien representatives gathered in her ready room. Did you expect anything else? She asked. You told us they were for extinction-level threat to galactic civilization. Humans take extinction-level threats very seriously. Cathar found his voice, but the scale of it, hunting them across the entire galaxy. Commander, Chen said quietly, for most of human history, we only had each other to fight. We got very good at total war. Very good at making sure our enemies never threaten anyone again. She holstered her weapon and stood. The galaxy is safe now. The Vorthons will never hurt anyone again. Isn't that what you wanted? The aliens realized they had no answer. For that, it was exactly what they had wanted. They just hadn't understood what it would look like when humans Delhi 6 months after the extinction of the Vorthan hive. The Galactic Cooperative Council convened for the first time in their new reality. The Great Council chamber looked the same, but everything had changed. At the circular table where once only alien representatives sat, humans now occupied seats as full members of the galactic community. Ambassador Sarah Chen, Admiral Chen's younger sister and Earth's first galactic diplomat, listened politely as the Cathar representative. Cathar discussed trade route disputes between the buy and proposed shipping lanes would add 3 days to our cargo runs, Cathar explained, his antennae twitching with mild irritation. This represents a significant economic burden for our merchant fleet. The other representatives nodded sympathetically. Such disputes had occupied the council for hours in the past, requiring careful negotiation and complex compromise. Ambassador Chen looked up from her notes. Forgive me, but is this actually a problem? Can't you just use different routes? The chamber fell silent. Cathar's compound eyes focused on the human ambassador. Well, yes, technically. There are alternate paths, but the established protocols require. So there's no actual threat to anyone's safety or survival. Chen interrupted gently. No one's going to die if cargo takes an extra 3 days. The alien representatives exchanged glances. No, admitted the hegemony delegate. But the economic implications are manageable, Chen finished. This seems like a very minor issue compared to what you were dealing with 6 months ago. Elder Mothra of the Wisdom Council floated forward in her hover chair. Ambassador Chen, these trade disputes may seem trivial to your species, but they represent the foundation of peaceful galactic commerce. I understand, Chen replied diplomatically. I'm just saying 6 months ago you were facing extinction. Now you're worried about shipping schedules. That seems like progress. Meeting continued, but the tone had shifted. Issues that once seemed urgent now appeared minor when viewed through the lens of human perspective. Border disputes, resource allocation, arguments, cultural misunderstandings. None of it carried the weight of life and death that humans were accustomed to dealing with. During a recess, Commander Krithak approached Ambassador Chen in the corridor outside the chamber. Your species troubles us, he said. Without preamble, Chen raised an eyebrow. In what way? The way you think about conflict. Way you solve problems, Krithak's antennae drooped slightly. For 3,000 years the cooperative has resolved disputes through negotiation, compromise, careful diplomacy. We take pride in finding peaceful solutions. That's admirable, Chen said. But you showed us something different. You showed us that some problems don't have peaceful solutions, that sometimes the only answer is complete total victory over your enemy. Chen considered this carefully. The Vorthans didn't leave you much choice. They couldn't be reasoned with, couldn't be negotiated with. They existed only to consume. Sometimes peaceful species need warriors to protect them. That's what frightens us, Kriltik admitted. We asked for support and you gave us something we'd never seen before. Absolute security. The Vorthans are gone, not just defeated but extinct. No one in the galaxy will ever Face that threat again. Isn't that good? Yes, Kriltic said. Slowly. But it makes us wonder what other problems you might solve with the same thoroughness. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Velter, who approached with a data tablet, clutched in his tentacles. Ambassador Chen, I have the preliminary reports from the planetary recovery operations. Your terraforming teams have exceeded all projections. Chen accepted the tablet and scrolled through the data. Velter is looking good, full ecosystem restoration ahead of schedule. The other worlds, 7 of the consumed planets, will be fully habitable within 50 years, Dr. Velter reported with amazement. 3 more within a century, we thought. Those worlds were lost forever. Life is resilient, Chen said. It just needs help sometimes. But the scale of it, Dr. Velter continued. Your species has committed to a 1,000-year terraforming project. The resources, the planning, the sheer determination required. It's what we do. Chen replied simply, we fix things. We protect things. We make sure the galaxy is safe for everyone. Later that evening, in the human delegation's quarters, aboard the station, Ambassador Chen met with General Harrison, the commander of the newly formed Human Defense Corps. How are the recruitment efforts going? She asked. Better than expected. Harrison replied, every cooperative species has volunteers wanting to join the Corps. They want to learn human military doctrine, and our people adapting well. The alien technologies are impressive. Their sensors and communications are centuries ahead of ours, but they're learning that technology isn't everything in warfare. Chen nodded. What about the patrol schedules? Harrison activated a holographic map of the galaxy. Blue markers showed Human Defense Corps ships stationed throughout cooperative space. We've got coverage on all major shipping lanes and population centers. If anything like the Vorthan shows up again, we'll know about it within hours. Good. The last thing we want is another species like the Vorthans catching everyone off guard. About that, Harrison said carefully. There's been some discussion among the alien leadership about our thoroughness in dealing with threats. Chen sighed. They're scared of us. Can you blame them? We wiped out an entire species in 6 months. Even I find that a little disturbing when I think about it. The Vorthans weren't people, General. They were a galactic plague. You don't cure cancer by negotiating with it, I know, and I agree with what we did, but the aliens have a point. We do solve problems very permanently. Chen walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the darkness, ensuring that no threat could emerge undetected. Other human teams worked on dead worlds, bringing them back to life through sheer determination and advanced technology. General, for most of human history, we were alone. We only had ourselves to protect. Now we have something bigger. A whole galaxy full of species that never learned how to fight real wars. They're peaceful, creative, intelligent beings who deserve to live without fear. She turned back to face him. Yes, we solve problems permanently. That's what you do when the alternative is extinction. These species asked for support, and we delivered shock and awe. But more than that, we delivered security they never thought possible. The aliens worry about what happens if we decide they're a problem, Harrison pointed out. Chen smiled, but there was steel in her expression. Then they shouldn't become a problem. The galaxy is big enough for everyone as long as everyone wants peace. 3 weeks later, the first major test of the new galactic order came when long-range sensors detected an unknown fleet approaching from outside the galaxy. The ships were unlike anything in the databases, angular, aggressive-looking vessels that refused to respond to communication attempts. The Cooperative Council went into emergency session, and for the first time in months, the old panic began to creep back into their voices. Unknown fleet, approximately 40 vessels approaching the outer rim. Colonies, reported the sensor technician, estimated arrival in 72 hours. Are they hostile? Asked Elder Mothra, unknown there. Not responding to our hails. Ambassador Chen stood calmly. General Harrison, how long to get a task force to the intercept point? Human Defense Corps ships are already moving into position, Harrison replied. We'll have overwhelming force advantage within 24 hours. Prathak looked nervous. What if they're peaceful? What if this is just a misunderstanding? Chen's expression didn't change. Then they'll have nothing to worry about. We'll make contact, determine their intentions, and proceed accordingly. And if they're not peaceful, Admiral, Sarah Chen's voice came over the communication system from her flagship, then they'll learn what happened to the last species that threatened galactic security. The galaxy has guardians now. We protect our friends. The unknown fleet was met at the galactic rim by Human Defense Corps vessel, sleek ships that combined human military doctrine with alien technology. The encounter lasted exactly 17 minutes. The unknown vessels were scouts from a conquering empire that had consumed 3 other galaxies. They came expecting to find primitive civilizations ready for harvest. Instead, they found humans, the few ships that survived long enough to send a message back to their empire carried a simple warning. This galaxy was protected by warriors who did not accept surrender, did not show mercy to those who threatened innocent life, and would pursue any aggressor to the ends of the universe if necessary. Back in the Cooperative Council chamber, the representatives sat in stunned silence as they received the after-action reports. The entire scout fleet, whispered Dr. Velter. Completely eliminated, confirmed. General Harrison, no survivors. We've also deployed long-range sensor buoys to monitor for any follow-up incursions. Ambassador Chen addressed the chamber. The galaxy remains secure. Any species that wants to live in peace has nothing to fear. Any species that threatens that peace will be dealt with accordingly. Kriltek found his voice. You make it sound